96.3 and 103.7.
All right, welcome back in. Talk of the town for a Tuesday during Thanksgiving week. Don Brown is a former United States Navy JAG officer. He's served in the Pentagon, a former Special Assistant United States Attorney, and a Publishers Weekly national best-selling author. And he hopes to be the next U.S. Senator representing the state of North Carolina. And I believe Don is with us right now. Don, welcome to the program.
Tom, Patrick, it is an honor to be with you. Thanks for having me back.
You bet. Now, Don, it's going to be an interesting time between now and next November, and a lot of people are saying, "Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? we're going to do this again." I mean, if you're in politics, it's a constant cycle. But anyway, next Monday, your plan is to head over to the Board of Elections and fill out the paperwork and become a candidate to replace Thom Tillis.
That's right. Looking forward to it. And it's going to be a nice day. We're hoping to file around noon, depending on how some things go, but have support all over the state. Some polls are looking positive, and our momentum our campaign has tons of momentum. And we're going to just keep it going. Just got endorsed by Lieutenant Colonel Allen West this week. We're grateful for that. Have been endorsed by General Mike Flynn, by Patriot Attorney Sidney Powell, and by a native North Carolinian, a friend of mine, a great American, Lieutenant General Jerry Boykin, former commander of Delta Force. So we got a lot of momentum, and we're looking forward to seeing this through to victory.
Obviously, a lot of those endorsements have a military background. And let me say, as we begin this interview, thank you for your service with our military over the years. You mentioned the poll. According to the latest Carolina Journal poll, 600 likely voters in North Carolina, done a couple of weeks ago by Harper Polling. Cooper had 47% of the vote. Michael Whatley, who is indicated he will be running in the primary for the Republican Senate race, 38%. And when Cooper, that's with Cooper against Whatley, when Cooper comes up against you, he has slight more, 48%. You have 38%. Frankly, Don, I was surprised at how good those numbers are for you.
Well, Tommy, you're reading it the right way. I really wasn't surprised because I've been all over the state of North Carolina and have seen grassroots Republican response firsthand to this race. But that poll did surprise a lot of people because, they're trying to how do I say this delicately? They're trying to coronate Whatley as the nominee without a debate, without hearing from grassroots Republicans. And frankly, voters don't like having candidates rammed down our throats. The RNC tried it in 2016 with Jeb Bush. We saw how that worked. The DNC just tried it with Kamala Harris. We saw how that worked, and it's not going to work here either. So we weren't surprised, but the takeaway from that is here you have Whatley, who is supposed, in the eyes of the corporate media, to be the front runner because they're trying to juxtapose this as Whatley versus Cooper, and they're going to be surprised on March 3rd. But we're in a statistical tie with this guy who is the RNC chair and who is outraised as probably, 100-1. This is a testament as to where the momentum is in the race. And the Carolina Journal, of course, did not show my numbers directly against Whatley. You notice that. This Carolina Journal has been pro-Whatley. It's the first time they've even used our name. So I think that poll has shocked a lot of people, and I appreciate you taking notice. And we're going to continue to do what we've been doing. We're going to get out, and we're going to talk about true conservatism. We know we're running on the national debt crisis that the Republican Party has not meaningfully addressed yet, and that message is resonating. We've got to not just slow our rate of spending, but to reverse the debt, or we're going to lose the dollar. And if you think it was bad during COVID, we ain't seen nothing yet.
We're talking to Don Brown. He plans on being a U.S. Senate candidate for the Republican nomination. Patrick.
Yeah, I was going to say, Don, welcome to the show. Great to have you back on. My question to you here would be, and you lay out all those endorsements, and there's a lot of bona fides, both military and as far as conservative attributes with a lot of the names that you rattled off there. But it also dawns on me that a lot of those people are Trump people. And Michael Whatley is very much connected to Donald Trump. And we've seen Donald Trump will not hesitate to throw his weight behind somebody in a GOP primary. So have you had any interaction with the Trump White House on your run? And does that concern you?
I'm not concerned about anything. Let me see if I can answer that question for you. We jumped in the race long before Whatley, and I've been enjoying the show this morning. I have worked with Pete Hegseth on some significant cases, and very pleased to see him taking a no-nonsense approach with Mark Kelly and all these seditious idiot Democrat senators who are urging our troops not to obey lawful orders. I could go into that. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I'm happy to do that. But the thing that really caused me to jump in the race, the straw that broke the camel's back, was when Tillis tried to torpedo Pete Hegseth's nomination, even after Pete had been cleared by the Armed Services Committee, when Tillis had promised that he would support any of Trump's nominees coming out of the committee. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. 2 months later, in March, the end of March, at the Carolina Country Club in Raleigh, Whatley, then the RNC chair, went to that Carolina Country Club and endorsed Tillis. So this is a Tillis 2.0 situation. Now, with regard to the president, I love the president. The president has pardoned 2 of my clients, Army Lieutenant Clint Lawrence, which got a lot of national attention in 2019. And also I've given legal advice to several J6 patriots, represented one in federal court. So I've gotten 2 pardons from President Trump. He's the greatest president in our lifetime. But only one man ever walked on water, and some of the president's endorsements, I think, have been without good advice. He endorsed Lindsey Graham. I asked my Republican friends, would you vote for Lindsey Graham? He was a nominee. He endorsed Dr. Oz. We're going to give the president a better surprise Christmas present under the tree than he would have gotten otherwise, because he's going to have a warrior in his camp for the final 2 years of his administration when I'm elected to the Senate. But the real question, Patrick and Tom, is, how are we going to proceed? See, the next U.S. senator will serve 2 years with Trump and 4 years after. And as Republicans, we've got to start, as they say about David in the Bible and Psalms, girding our hands for battle for the 4 years after Trump is gone, because we're kind of living in the eye of a storm right now based upon the force of the president's personality. But we got to get serious about attacking this national debt. Our Republican RNC has no plan for it. Republican leadership has no plan for it. It isn't enough just to slow the rate of spending. It's funny, guys. Actually, it's not funny. It's interesting. I was headed up to Buncombe County a month or so ago, and there is a website called usdebtclock.org. I encourage everybody to go to it, usdebtclock.org. If you go there, you can see the national debt exploding before our eyes. And I've got this little cell phone here, and I've got a daughter who's a nurse. She's technologically advanced. She showed me how to use a timer. As I was getting ready to go to Asheville, I had that website open, and I set the timer for 1 minute. A minute later, I hear this little, the alarm goes off. Yeah. And guess how much the debt had gone up in 1 minute? Anybody want to guess? Well,
I will say $575,000.
Well, about 4 times that, $2 million in a minute.
Wow.
Oh, gosh.
$37,000 a second. Now, listen, guys, we have lowered the rate of that explosion from about $55,000 to $60,000 a second under the Democrats now to $37,000 a second. That's not going to cut the mustard. And I'm running because if we don't reverse this, we're going to lose the dollar. And if we lose the dollar, it's not going to, the dollar supplanted the pound sterling in 1944 at Bretton Woods, which was the British currency. But if you go back and you look at every great nation that's ever controlled the earth from the Romans on, they've had the greatest, also the currency, the international currency that folks want. The Romans had the denarius. You can read about it in the New Testament. President Trump's talking about the golden age. Well, he got that from the Dutch. During the Dutch golden age, there was the gilding. Last month, we celebrated Columbus Day. When the Spanish controlled the world during that dynasty, there was the peso. The Brits, they used to say the sun would never set on British soil, had the pound sterling, which fell to the dollar in 1944, and the United States accelerated as an economic superpower. And we celebrate these B-2 bombers that dropped these bunker-busting bombs on Iraq and decimated their nuclear program. You think Britain or France or Canada or anybody else could do that? No, because we are the world's economic superpower. And if we lose the dollar, we're going to lose all that. We're going to lose our standard of living. So I'm running because there's a national crisis here. Whatley has not mentioned it at all. Maybe he'll copy me and mention it. Nobody's mentioning it, but I'm going to lead the charge in the Florida Senate to try to at least call attention to it and do something about it. We've got to, in fact, institute DOGE cuts and cut the deep state. We've got to cut agencies. We've got to get rid of them. Democrats are going to cry like kids when you take
Don,
candy away from them.
Don, do you think this can happen without another catastrophe? I mean, the last time anybody got serious was 9/11, and that lasted for about 2 weeks in terms of, hey, we've got to have a major reset. I look at where we are as a country. I look at our spending, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, but I think you're going to have some outside force that wakes up the American citizenry and saying, we've got to make a change. We don't have any choice.
Well, Tom, you asked a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but we can't afford to sit around and wait for a catastrophe. We've got to lead the charge now, and we have to explain the problem. It's kind of like you run your household, I run my household. You probably run yours better than me because you get your credit cards a little more under control. But if you and I were to go to Vegas, we have 4 or 5 credit cards. We could have a good time, run the credit cards up, and next thing you know, they're all maxed out. We got to walk back to Pitt County. How's that going to work? We are coming close to going over Niagara Falls right now. I mean, we really are, and we cannot afford to lose our currency. There are many other issues out there that we need to be concerned about, and rightly so. For example, DEI, ridiculous. Trying to force little girls into locker rooms and restrooms with men is abominable. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. The things the Democrats have been up to, the anti-American approaches they've had, whether it's DEI or whatever it might be, ESG, you name it. And we're right to be angry about all that. But the bottom line is our Republican Congresses have been weak. Our Democrat Congresses, when they've been in control, have been disastrous. Yep. And, President Trump is trying to take out the Department of Education with executive orders, and I'm glad to see that. But listen, it was the Congress under Carter that rammed that down our throats. Only Congress can get rid of it. We're 300 days into the administration with a Republican Congress. We still have a Department of Education. If you don't take it out, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to come back. It's kind of like you can zap cancer with radiation, but it'll come back if you don't take it out.
Well, I agree. I agree with what you're saying, but I do think, apart from divine intervention, I'm not sure the American people will wake up. I pray for divine intervention. Patrick?
Yeah, it was announced a couple days ago, Don, that DOGE is, despite I guess multiple months left on its charter, is no more. So, I mean, I hear loud and clear what you're saying about the debt. I mean, that's a drum that the late Walter Jones beat decades constantly before. Yeah. And rightfully so. But I mean, where was the failing of DOGE then? Because I thought that was supposed to solve a lot of this.
I think that DOGE should be reinstituted. DOGE recommended, we have approximately 400, and I'll push this from the floor of the Senate. I mean, you say the divine intervention there, Tom. Sometimes divine intervention starts with leadership in the right place. And, we only had a small number of patriots that fought the most powerful military in the world during the American Revolution. We cannot give up and wait for the next big catastrophe. But back to your question, Patrick. Listen, DOGE recommended eliminating 300 of the approximately 400, probably even more agencies that are in the federal government. Those recommendations should be made law. We can't just bring it in for, theatrical purposes to show some of the outrageous debt, which it did. And one thing that DOGE did was show what a lot of us have known, that the deep state of the federal government, and by deep state, I mean these agencies, upon 3-letter agencies, 4-letter agencies, FEMA's a 4-letter agency, ATF, whatever it might be, IRS, DEA, whatever it is, that the deep state of the federal government is largely a criminal enterprise, shifting money back and forth and back. And so, yes, it exposed that, but it's got to go farther. These DOGE cuts need to be institutionalized, and we need to explain why. Listen, I was with a friend of mine, a member of Congress, in a joint appearance a few weeks ago, and he pointed out, we've under President Trump, we've done this, we've done that, we reduced the rate of spending. Yes, we've reduced the rate of spending, but as I said a moment ago, and the late Walter Jones, who was a friend, I worked with him also on House Armed Services Committee projects that we worked together. But if you bring the rate of spending down from the debt exploding to 55,000 a second down to 37,000 a second, which is where we are now, it's kind of like, hey, I've been a Coke addict. Now I used to take 2 liters a night. Now I'm only taking 1 liter a night. You're still killing yourself. And I think there's power in truth, and I think that people will follow the truth if it's explained clearly. But back to your question, Doge is one of the best things that Trump has done. I'm sad to see it go. I will advocate it returning. If you're going to add a federal agency, Doge will be a good one, because we need agencies that'll take a meat cleaver to the waist. So you look at this silly shutdown that we had, and so you have non-essential workers that are furloughed and can't get paid until the shutdown's over. Well, they're non-essential. Why in the world are they on the government payroll to begin with? You just ask common sense questions, and the answer is obvious.
Don, real quickly as we close this thing out, I appreciate you coming on this morning. Do you see anybody else getting into the race? Laura Trump, of course, early on, they were throwing her name around. I've heard the name Mark Meadows as a possibility, but do you see anyone else getting into this primary?
You never know. I really don't. I said early on that if Laura Trump had jumped in, I would have gone to the beach. She didn't jump in. The closest I've been to the beach is when I went to the Carteret County Republican Party and drove along the sound, the beautiful view over there. But I don't really see anybody, but you never know. And certainly, I think the fact that Trump has given at least some superficial support to Whatley is going to discourage others. And I don't see it, but all I know is we're not going anywhere, and we're planning to win this thing.
All right. Patrick?
No, that's it. Thank you, Don. Great to have you on. Really appreciate it. Best of luck. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. And I know you'll be there bright and early on Monday.
You bet. Happy Thanksgiving to you, gentlemen, and everybody in God's country.
Website, Don?
The website, thank you, Tom, is Brown, BROWN 4 FORNC.com. Brown4NC.com.
All right.
Love to hear from everybody.
All right. Thanks, Don. Appreciate it. Have a great Thanksgiving.
You too, gentlemen. Thank you both.
Bye-bye.
All right. Great to have Don Brown on. Interesting stuff there, huh, Tom? With Don Brown. He hit on some of the touchstones there, and those polling numbers at the beginning are quite fascinating as well. The Whatley thing, and I think, frankly, it's the issue with Don Brown, who is a very effective orator. It'll be the name recognition battle. My hope, as I'm sure it is yours, is the objective here has to be to take out a guy who's going to get nothing but glowing coverage, who's not going to be asked a tough question by anybody in this state on the campaign trail, in the form of the former governor. Cooper will not get challenged by anybody, and Cooper will avoid a debate. He'll probably do one, would be my guess, but he will do everything he can to avoid a debate. So, my hope is that the GOP doesn't eat their own in this infighting. And if it's Don Brown, so be it. If it's Whatley, so be it. But the objective has to be, in my mind, you cannot lose this seat and have it go back to Democrat control.
Well, and that's the challenge. I think either one, Whatley or Brown, is going to have a tough time. Cooper has won 4 straight statewide elections. It is curious how the presidential election seems to go conservative and the governor's race seems to go liberal every time after time after time. There's obviously a few exceptions, but more times than not, that's the way it goes. I do think that to win the primary, if he wants to win the primary, I think trying to tie Whatley to Tillis, and I'm not endorsing anybody here, but I think to tie Whatley to Tillis is probably the route he needs to go. Yeah. The Brown needs to go.
Okay.